Hello again and welcome to Debbie's Painted Disasters channel, or at least that's what it feels like so far. But hey, I'm actually enjoying it even though it comes out pretty bad and I'm having some fun. However, last painting I did, not quite so disastrous. It's not so ugly anyway. I was able to get colour, which is something which has been a bit lacking in all of the previous attempts. Despite using the same colours, it just came out kind of ugh. This one was a bit better. Don't want to move it too much. Oops. It's still wet, but it had more colour, and this was a swipe. So I put the colours and then I swiped white over the top and the colours popped up through, as you'd expect, and actually they popped up through a lot. So I'm going to give dirty pouring a rest, because clearly that hasn't worked for me very well and I need to practice a little bit more. So I'm going to do another swipe, but those were bright and pretty colours. These are more dull and ugly colours, so it could turn out pretty ugly. But anyway, I wanted to try something different, and I wanted to try something that's going to look a bit more like the sea, like I want it to look like coral, so the kind of coral polyps and things that you might find. So I've gone for ocean colours, or as best as I can, because of course I have a very limited access to colours, so I've got a very limited palette to work with. So what I have got is silver, and I've noticed on the side of my paints that it does tell me whether they're opaque or not. So this is a pearlescent silver, which is semi-opaque, so I'm going to use that one. Then I've got a cobalt blue. It doesn't tell me whether this is opaque or not, but as you can see, it's a nice bright blue. Then I wanted another blue, a darker, but there was only this one and it just was too dark. It's kind of a really dark navy, ultramarine blue. So what I decided was to add 50% ultramarine blue, 50% emerald green, and get a kind of a really dark teal colour. Both of these are shown as transparent, so that will be interesting. I've mixed those two together. And then I've gone for a yellow ochre. It's kind of, it's not as bright as the yellow I was using before, much more subdued, and I think it kind of fits with those. And my trusty white. So I've mixed them all exactly the same as I did from my formula that I've worked out. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. So I've used a standard formula which seemed to work pretty well for all the paints. I've used 1 tablespoon of colour. In this case, to make the kind of dark teal, I used half a tablespoon each of the blue and the green. These are all 1 tablespoon. Then I added a half a tablespoon of the Floetrol pouring medium, or the additive, and a half a tablespoon of water. And when I mixed them all up, they seemed to be about right. But you know, maybe my paint isn't the right consistency yet, so I'll just have to keep practicing with that. So let's give them a little stir. They've actually been sat for an hour where I got distracted and went off and did something else. So it sits on the spoon and then runs kind of smoothly off. So it appears to look like the paint-in thickness that the other people are having, and they're having success, whereas I really haven't had any success so far. So what I need to add now is my silicone oil. I couldn't get actual silicone oil, so I'm using this Liquid Wrench silicone spray. And what I did to make it a bit more controllable, I've sprayed it into a little plastic container, and I'm going to use it with a dropper. So I'm just going to add, I don't know, 3 to each one. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Put that to one side and spill that and make a big mess everywhere. These little pots are good though. And then this is my big pre-mixed white. I'll give it a shake, and I actually went ahead and added some drops of the silicone into the white as well. I'm going to do it the same as I did before. So I'm going to layer my colours on the lower half and then add the white at the top and kind of sweep it over. So let me give these a stir, and then I'll pour my canvas over and we'll get to doing a little bit of painting. So I'm nervous, but I've used my couple of tools to see what I can do to make things perfect. For a start, I've used my little levels, and where necessary I've put a little extra popsicle stick in just here to make sure that my canvas is level, so that when I set it down, if I do get something I like, hopefully it's not all going to run off the end, so I can put those to one side. I've also got my little table where I made a note of the weights of my paints, because my theory is, which may be right or wrong, that the lighter paints should probably go on the bottom because we want those to rise up through, and the heavier paints, you know, everyone knows that white is heavier, that goes on the top because we want that to sink. So I've got my paints in order. This is the lighter, then that one, then that one, then the blue, and then lastly the white. So remember last time, oh, got a hair, let's get rid of that before we start. I didn't have quite enough paint on the edges, so I'm going to make sure that my canvas is flat for a start and not bowed, so that it's not going to be flat. So that looks good, and then I must remember to make sure I get enough paint towards these edges. So I'm going to start with my greeny kind of blue colour. I think I had plenty of paint last time. I don't think I was too tight with the paint. Oh, I should have had a glove, because look, these little pots with the lip on them, they make a mess. Okay, some silver. I'll be interested to see what the silver has done, because when I've used metallics in painting in the past, I've been kind of disappointed. They've not turned up as much as I thought they might have done. So although the silver is apparently quite a light paint in terms of its weight, whether it will bubble up through and show, I really don't know. So let's see, let's do a bit more. I'm going to layer them up a little bit rather than just keep them in a single layer. Who knows? Let's do that one. Bit of blue. So because I think the blue is a heavier paint, I don't mind putting that on top, because my thinking is that it should be going to sink. But who knows? It's just a theory. So now I'll add a little bit more, because I just want to make sure I've got enough. Be nothing worse than having not enough on those sides like I had before, and then I kind of messed it up. So I'm going to keep going. I don't know if I like these colours, but hey, they're my choice. Oh there, in my arm. I always thought they weren't exactly the prettiest of colours before we started, but hey, it may look nicer in the end. Okay, so let's get my cloth. I think I've certainly got enough paint on there this time. So now I need to just layer up with plenty of white up at the top here, ready for my swipe. So I'm going to make sure I've got plenty. Because in fact I want it to swipe obviously all the way down to the bottom of the canvas. So I'm going to load it up. Okay. So now I'm ready. I've got two tools, a big one that's going to go through the centre, and then a smaller one for the edges. And I must remember to wipe it this time. I didn't do that before. Oh look, even though I wiped it, I still managed to get a mess. I didn't wipe it enough. Okay. So let's see what happens. There's some movement. There are some really nice little cells coming through on these sides. Those look especially good, but there's not so much in the middle. Do I need to give that another little swipe? Maybe I do. Take it gently. Don't want to mess up. Okay. I'm going to call that a day for the swiping, I think. So shall we just wait and see what happens for a little bit? Because I don't want to, oh yeah, things are coming through. Oh look, that's interesting. That's the first little bit of silver that I see. and there's a little bit of silver here on the edge, and that silver is making a great big spot, but not much else. There's a tiny patch of silver there. I'm really loving this here and here. This blue and green, the two that I mixed together, I wonder if it's because I mixed the paints, but they're looking awesome. Whereas I've got this funny patch here. Oh no, look, there's a little bit of yellow coming through, and that's interesting because the yellow's a bit slower, but it's definitely coming through there. The silver one, this is, it's not quite so nice there now. Maybe I've ruined it with the silver. I think the metallics for me, the silver and the gold haven't worked so well in the past. And of course I messed up on this part again by not having properly wiped my blade. I was just anxious. I think I'm anxious because I've had things that haven't gone so well in the past. Now I'm not liking that there, it's really ugly, but I definitely can't pour anything on top at this point because I know that if I try to make it better, I'll end up making it worse, and in fact, you know, it's not too bad as it is. So I think I'll go with it. I don't even think I want to torch it because I like it as it is. I don't want to disturb what I've already got. And I think as I leave it, more colours will probably come through. I'm getting a little bit of yellow here and here now, a bit more yellow here. So I'm good. I think we're going to call that another success. So swiping, I can do. Swiping I'm good at. Well, you know, reasonably good at, apart from the fact I've made a bloody mess again here. But the dirty pours, not so much. So that's an area that clearly I need to practice with. But I'm really delighted with that one so far, really delighted. I just hope that it stays. These are all tended to blend a little bit together here. So fingers crossed that I want this to stay exactly as it is. Okay, I'm going to get the camera down and do a little bit of a close-up. So here's the beautiful cells that I'm getting on this side where I've mixed the blue and the green together. I think those look really good. And across the middle where the blue and the green were mixed, again, I really like that. Really like it. And these little ones just here on the side with the yellow, these are interesting, they're small, but I'm definitely getting the kind of coral and underwater look that I was going for. So I think knowing how well all this has mixed together, I wouldn't be nervous in future of mixing my paints to try and create different colours, because maybe even by mixing them I'm encouraging the growth of the cells. And I like the way up at the top just here the blue here is just slightly kind of leaching out into the white, and I mostly managed to get a completely beautiful white apart from this damp patch just here, which okay, I can live with. I'm still brand new, I'm still practicing and learning, so I'm happy. Again, this silver patch in the middle has gone a bit too much there, so I think I'll be using metallics perhaps with a bit of caution in future, although I've got some really nice silver just here on the side, so that looks really good. But that big patch that came through I'm not liking so much. But otherwise, well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed to the painting gods that it will stay like this. I'll show a picture of what it looks like when it's dry. And here's the finished result. This is the painting in the end as it's dried. You can see, especially in the middle here, it looks very different to how it looked while it was drying, and that's entirely my fault because I took the painting on the stands and put it off to one side. I just put it off on the bed stupidly. I know, what was I thinking? While I cleaned up all of the mess and cleaned up my table, and I came back only to find that it'd been slightly tipped, and so everything of course was running off to one side. So then I put it back and it tipped back the other way. So instead of being kind of rounded in the center, it's now gone a bit jagged because it kind of tipped off to one side and then back again. However, it looks really nice now that it's finished. It's very glossy, shiny. You can see lots of texture in it where all of the cells were created in the paint, and the silver bits here where they've all come through. Now that I've put a protective finish on, the silver really sparkles, and as you move it in the light, it looks really good. You can see all the tiny little bits, like little bits of glitter in it. So although it hasn't come out quite as I was hoping or expected, and obviously I've got this funny mark up here, which I can live with, the rest of it looks really good. and so it's inspired me, I think, to carry on while I'm having a little bit of success with this white painting, to just do a bit more. I think I'm going to do some lighter colours. I'm going to stick with the blues because I've got some paint left over, but this darker blue green up here I'm just going to try and lighten up, and I'll share my experiments with that in my next video. Thanks for watching.